All right, welcome everybody. And here we are on July 28th. The summer is going by fast, July 28th, 2022. Today I am joined by Dwayne Wimmer. Dwayne and I met in 2019 at the Resistance Exercise Conference in, geez, I'm going to forget now the location. Where was that again?
2019, that was in Minnesota, wasn't it?
In
Yeah,
Minnesota. That's right. Yeah.
yeah.
And since then, we've been sort of informally in touch through social media and things like that, looking at what he's doing and what I've been doing since. And also, I've done a bit of background. So Dwayne has been doing this for quite a while. We're talking decades at this point. And I learned doing a little bit of homework this morning that Dwayne has quite a background in football, both playing it and coaching it for some time. And he is located in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Has been doing this for a lot of time. Is very respected among the community of people who do what I like to call rational exercise. And I'm looking forward to having a conversation. So, Dwayne, as I found out, I didn't realize to what extent your background was with football and whatnot. So you were obviously, I'm going to guess here, and you can fill in any other blanks about the bio that I may have missed, that before you were exposed to the type of training that we do, being involved with football, you were exposed to a lot of different exercise programs. How did you come to where you are today?
Well, when I was in college, I went to state school in Missouri in the early to mid 80s. And if you remember, the powerhouse in football back then was Nebraska. So everybody did the Nebraska workout, the bigger, faster, stronger workout, which is power cleans, deadlifts, bench press, and then fill in with other things that you like. So I learned how to be really good at doing the power clean. I could power clean as much as I could bench press. And I could squat fairly well as well. But I realized when I got into this type of training that I was just getting better at learning how to move the weight versus actually getting stronger. Now, there will be some crossover and you will get stronger. I'm 18, 20 years old. The testosterone's flowing. It doesn't matter too much what you do, you're going to see some results. But I got out of, when I was done playing football, I coached as a student coach till I graduated at Missouri Western. And then I got into the fitness industry and was exposed to this kind of training and just became a student of it. Then I went back to grad school for just one semester as a grad assistant football coach. And I realized that as much as I thought I wanted to be a football coach, I love the fitness and exercise aspect of things more than the coaching aspect of it. So I I went back and worked at another facility that used the same type of exercise protocol that we're talking about, and just like I said, became a student of it. Went to seminars and clinics every chance I could. I've seen people from the first actual conference or seminar I went to or clinic was at Rutgers in 1989, and the speakers there were people like Wayne Westcott, Dr. Ken Leisner, Kim Woods, uh, Dr. Paul Kennedy. He was the head strength coach there at the time, and then his assistant was Matt Brisky, who then went on to Princeton. So these people were my first exposure to this kind of training in a clinic setting, and since then I've seen pretty much everybody there speak multiple times. And I'm not sure. I don't know if Dan Riley was there too, but I've seen Dan Riley speak at clinics and stuff. So basically, I've seen people from the legends. I've seen the legends in our industry speak. So, and the more I listened to what they had to say, and the more I read about this type of training, the more it just made sense. And I started really working at training that way myself, and anecdotally, I saw better results than I ever saw doing anything else, and in a fraction of the amount of time. And I never got hurt. So those are all things that I try to preach to my clients these days.
So when you mentioned during your football career getting pretty good at some of the power cleans and squats and things like that, and of course football itself is obviously quite a rough sport where the injury rate is high. Were you able to escape this sort of reasonably unscathed, or did you have some injuries as a result of some of your activities?
Never got hurt in the weight room or lifting weights, so that's a good thing. Knowing what I know now about those types of lifts and how injury prone you are when you're doing them. The only injuries I ever had was ninth grade. Broke my leg the last game of the season. Um, so that just interfered with some basketball that year. Um, and when I was in college, never had any real sustainable injuries. One time I did have a little tweak to my knee, which I think I slightly tore a meniscus because it still bothers me today. But that was again the last play of the first half, and I was back playing the second half. So those are two. And one time I probably had a concussion, but back in the 80s, they didn't do what they do today to check it out. I definitely got my bell rung one time, pretty bad, and I was seeing double for a while.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. And now, Vertex Fitness, or maybe your business at one point had another name. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I this meaning this business I'm in right now,
Yeah,
I've had this since 2001. 2001, we opened it as Apex Fitness, but then someone else had it, and they asked me to politely ask me to change it, or they would sue me.
right.
So then I was struggling to find a name. Then I came up with one of my clients came up with Vertex Fitness, which means the same as an Apex, and it sounds similar. So the branding and the logo and things just had to change a few letters, and then since probably 2003, I've been Vertex Fitness.
Okay, so now in that time, or do you still have the one location, or do you have multiple locations?
One location, right in Bryn Mawr, like you said, a suburb of Philadelphia. I moved the locations in 2012 because there was a developer putting in a shopping center that was going to consume the building I was in. So they tore down that building. So I moved basically right around the corner to the location I'm in now in 2012.
And what is the size, square footage? Is it just yourself, or do you have multiple trainers working with you?
Square footage, just under 3,000 square feet. Um, and I've had up to in the course of these 21 years, I've had up to 10 trainers working with me. To now I have one part-time guy. It's just me and one part-time guy who comes in on Saturdays. But during the week, it's just me.
And your model is your clients are being trained exclusively by you going through their workouts?
Yes, one-on-one. We don't do small groups. On Saturdays when my employees here, there'll be two of us training at the same time. But there's enough equipment, enough room in here to where it can handle 5, 6 trainers actually.
Right, and still have relative privacy and personal attention.
Right, right, exactly.
So, so number of clients, how many clients would you service? And what would be the demographic of your clientele? More women, more men, certain age groups?
On an average day, I'm training about 12 to 15 people. Um, right around 70 sessions a week. I do train a handful of people on Saturday mornings. Um, I've had when I had the staff here before and had someone quit, I was training like 130 sessions a week, which is just, it was just not sustainable. So the demographic, I would say it's almost 50-50 male to female. I train from a high school girl to a guy in his late 80s who is overcoming a stroke, to a 32-year-old guy who's just looking to look better. But I'd say our main two demographics are busy professionals, so 45 to 65, and seniors, so 65 and over.
Okay. Now, I noticed in looking at your website in the testimonial section, there's testimonial from, I believe, a medical doctor. And you mentioned professionals. Do you have some medical professionals that are referring people to you?
There's one neurologist who's referred a couple people who had some neck problems to me, saw some great results with that. But in the past, I had a cardiologist who was referring people, and that was over 20 years ago. Before I even opened this place, he referred someone to me, and that person's still with me. So I've been training him for 23 years.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really good if you can get a medical professional to refer to you. People take it serious, more serious than, if they just figure it out on their own, I think, in a lot of cases.
Now, you said 70 sessions. I got tired listening to you say 70 sessions if you're on your own, because when I get up to a busy week for me is maybe 40 sessions. And I find that to be, at the end of the day, when you've trained 10, 12 people in one day, it's a tiring day.
It
So
is.
if you're only doing, if I understood correctly, you're not doing Sundays, you do the odd person on
Correct.
Saturday morning. So you're doing 10 or more sessions pretty much every day.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I've had 13 sessions already today, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So
so
uh,
you start early and your sessions are brief. How early and how brief?
every day is different. Today I start at 7, but some days as early as 6, 5:30. I've been here. Actually, one time I was here as early as 4:30 for somebody. I try not to do that many very often, but so I'm usually here by 7 in the morning, 6:37. And then there are some nights I go until 6:30 at night. But I try to keep it efficient. I try to keep them back to back. The sessions I book 30-minute slots. I tell clients that I have a treadmill, bike, elliptical, and things to warm up on. I tell them to come a few minutes early just to warm up. That's a buffer between clients. And then I'll start with them as soon as I'm finished with the client before them. So I try to have little downtime in between clients, and I tell them their workouts will take less than 30 minutes. So I don't tell them it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I tell them we're going to work your whole body in less than 30 minutes. So if they keep moving, it'll just be a little over 20 minutes with a full workout. But some people like to take a little sip of water in between each exercise and take the long way around. And so I do get everybody done within 30 minutes.
Okay, and that would be between 5 and 8 exercises, I'm guessing?
Um, well, every exercise takes about a minute to a minute and a half, so I can get like 12 exercises in because we move from one exercise right to the other, and with minimal time in between.
So in your time under load, when you said a minute per exercise, so there's a learning thing for me here because I'm finding working with older people that I'm hesitating to bring people under 2 minutes of time under load. But even with your older clients, keeping the time under load is relatively short.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things to think about when you're doing the extended time under load. It's actually a lot harder. Because you're ending up doing more work. And if you're truly going to failure, you're actually creating a huge stimulus. And those last 3, 4, 5 repetitions, if you're doing, if you're doing 20 reps, we'll say, are really uncomfortable. So to get to the same point, it's more time that you're uncomfortable than if it's heavier. Now, I'm not going to sacrifice someone's form just to throw more weight on. The form has to come first. But after that, if they can do more than about 70, 80 seconds under load, or I just use 12 repetitions in a slow controlled manner, I'll bump the resistance up to bring them back down into range.
So it sounds like you're probably using some variation of original Nautilus principles as far as cadence, about 2 seconds up, 4 seconds down.
I try to tell people it's like 3 to 4 seconds in both directions. So it's a very similar time frame per repetition. Um, I found that if you go too slow on the eccentric contraction, you can actually get a little bit of rest because you're stronger going that way. And obviously, if you go too fast on the concentric contraction, you're using momentum. So I try to get them to move the same speed in both directions, about 3 to 4 seconds in both directions.
Now, and your clients are coming once or twice a week?
It depends. I have clients coming once a week. I have clients coming twice a week. I have clients coming 3 times a week. What I've found over the years is that most people can't push to 100% intensity. There's a handful of us who go to the conferences where we met and stuff who can push harder than others, but my average clientele isn't going to push themselves that hard, no matter how hard I try. And I'd be doing them a disservice, I believe, if I tried to push them so hard, even though they're physically capable of doing it, that mentally they couldn't continue. So I've tried to find a balance between intensity, frequency, duration, and volume that keeps people coming within certain parameters of the protocol we follow without discouraging them. Yes, do I want them to always work harder than what they think they can? Yes. Do I push them a little bit more than where they would like to be? Yes. I mean, that's what they're paying me for. But do I push them to their ultimate capacity or intensity level that they could handle? No. Very few people do I do that with, because I wouldn't be training 70 sessions a week. If I did that, they wouldn't come back.
Right. Okay, that's fair. And I know that recently I've read various trainers, like I'm guessing we both do that as we read different things and listen to different things. And I've heard claims that twice a week is better than once a week. And of course, I've heard people say the opposite. And what surprises me is when either of those statements is made as an absolute. Because I think to myself, it depends. To me, the answer to that question is it depends. And I'm
I
curious.
totally agree. I totally agree. Sorry to cut you off, but I totally agree. That's where I was going there, but then I forgot when I was explaining the frequency that I train people and the intensity and so on. So most people can't work to that full all out intensity. So ideally, someone who has a lot of muscle on their body and can work super hard and do a lot of work will need more recovery. If you reduce the intensity a little bit, you don't need as much recovery, but to get to the same results, you can increase the frequency to make up for the intensity and or the duration or volume as well. So I agree with exactly what you're saying, is that it depends. And I honestly have found very few people who couldn't handle more than 3 times a week. I mean, couldn't handle more than 2. They couldn't handle 3 times a week, that I had to drop them down to 2 times a week. from a physical standpoint. And that's strictly because they're not willing to push themselves as hard as they can. Now, there are some people that I trained that were big enough and strong enough to where twice a week would have been more than enough, but they weren't willing to push themselves that hard. So I make up the difference in the frequency then.
Right. As long as, I guess, the intensity is beyond a certain threshold.
Right. We always say that the only thing we can measure is 100% effort. Well, 100% effort isn't 100% muscle effort. There's so many things involved in that as well. It's the physical is obviously what we're looking at, but the emotional and mental capacity to do the work is also part of the effort. And most people fall way short of their physical capacity because of their mental and emotional capacity.
Right.
So there's some point less than the ideal 100% effort that is the minimal threshold for stimulus. And I guarantee you, if you're working fairly hard, you're probably hitting that minimum threshold. And then if you do it on a regular basis and you learn how to push yourself, you're getting more and more from the workouts. Um, so all that being said, the reason people need to lower their frequency is because of how intense they work and how much recovery they need from that. But if you're not willing to or able to push yourself to that optimal or ideal level, there's ways of getting around that by increasing the frequency or even the volume of training. I'll do with some people, there's a workout that I put people through. It's all pre-exhaust from top to bottom. There's like 12 exercises and everything's pre-exhaust. So I wouldn't give anybody a steady diet of that, but that's a way of increasing the intensity without having to, increase each exercise intensity.
Right. Right. Well, and it's the interesting thing too is as long as they're progressing, like I have a lady this morning that she's been training with me for a while. And I know at one point she actually said to me, "This is too hard. I won't keep coming if it's that hard." And if she listens to this, which is fine, eventually I sort of backed it off and then I sneaked it back in slowly and gradually. But the thing is, I just keep adding a little bit. So I think
Right.
even if you're not reaching failure, if you just keep adding a little bit of weight every time and you're progressing, and somebody is in their 60s and their 70s and they're going in the right direction, i.e., getting stronger, how much do we lose sleep over? I think sometimes minutia, as long as, because
Right.
at that age, you're supposed to be going, nature says you're supposed to be going backwards. Father Time is doing everything he can to make us go backwards. So as long as you're going forward and you're not getting hurt, right?
Well, I'll even take it a step further. As long as you're not going backwards, if you're maintaining your strength as you get older, you're beating the norms. Okay,
Right.
so you're I have clients. For instance, the guy I said I was training for 23 years. I can guarantee you, most of his exercises, we haven't raised the weight in months, if years. And why? Well, after you've been training for 20 some years steady, but he comes 3 times a week, the chance of you getting much stronger at that point is minimal because you're closer to your genetic potential than you've ever been. And now that you're getting older, that potential is actually getting less. So if I can just keep him coming in on a regular basis and working hard, he's going to maintain his ability to function in life. And that's what it's all about. So I don't necessarily need people to increase weight every time or even, that is the least of my worries. What I'm looking for in every repetition is how to make it the most efficient possible uh, to working the targeted muscles. So most people think we're lifting weights when we do this, but I tell people the weight is moving as a result of the contraction. It's not the purpose of the contraction. So think of the weight as following the contraction of the muscle versus trying to move the weight with the muscle. And if you can get to that concept and really understand that, you're going to greatly increase your form to a point where it becomes more and more targeted on the muscles that we're looking for, which then if you're doing that, you can't use as much resistance because you're producing less force because it's more specific. So if I'm constantly trying to get them to be more specific with their efforts, the chances of them increasing resistance over time is reduced because each repetition is more efficient. So there's so many factors in this. That's why my clients have no idea. 99% of them have no idea how much weight they're doing on any exercise or how many repetitions. It's just, this is what I'm prescribing for today based on what I've seen you do in the past, and we're going to do as many as you can.
So I'm reminded of two things when you explain that, which is your points are excellent. And one of them is John Parr. Do you know John or know of John?
John's studio is about half a mile from me.
Oh, okay. So he's told me that he has not raised the weights on his own exercises personally in 10 years. And yet he says that he's put on muscle during that time. And he says that once he gets his clients, the expression he uses, dialed in to the right weight, he says he rarely changes the weights on them and they continue to do that. And I remember wondering when I would read something to the effect of every workout, you should either add weight or reps or time under load. And if you're not able to, then you need to look at changing your frequency or your volume or something. And I remember thinking, well, if you look at it, if I raise even a small amount of weight every week, just do the math. If I'm training for a few years, that means
Yeah,
we would all be maxing out the weight stacks after a
I
few
know.
years, which of
It's
course,
crazy. It can't happen. And that's where I tell my clients, I say, how much weight it takes for you to get to that point where you can't do it anymore is irrelevant. And we want to get the form so good that today's weight is going to be too heavy for 3 months from now. So now as you gradually change the form, maybe it won't be too heavy 3 months from now, but don't be discouraged if we have to reduce the resistance because your form is getting better.
now in terms of habit formation 101 is reward positive habits with positive reinforcement and whatnot. So is that a sale that you've ever had trouble making in terms of some people? Like I have a client who sometimes says, how much am I lifting? And shouldn't I be lifting more? And shouldn't I be lifting more by now? Do you replace it with a different kind of positive reinforcement? Um,
Um, I typically go down the road of what is more, what is more to you, and how do you come up with that number? And really, they don't have any idea why they thought it would be 20 pounds more than what they're lifting now, or why it should be, like whatever. So I try to show them that, you know, basically we work within whatever they're genetically capable of doing, and you can't compare where we are today with where anybody else is today and where you've come from and where they've come from. So I tell them that if you're working as hard as you can on every exercise, you're getting benefit. You're getting stronger, you're getting benefit from it, and it's going to help you. So I try to steer them away from weights and reps because there's so many factors, so many variables involved in that we can't control, that I don't think tracking your weights and your weights is a good measure of progress.
Okay.
is if you're weightlifting and you get better at the skill of moving more weight. But as far as what we're doing, because I'm always trying to get their form better and better, just that one variable has such an effect on how much resistance you can move that, over time we may have to lower the resistance because you get better at the form, not better at moving the weight, but better at being specific with the muscles we're targeting. So you're not producing forces from other places. And when you do that, you may not be able to lift as much.
So I have been training myself I did the math the other day, and I hate doing that because reminds me how old I'm getting, how quickly. But I've been doing this for 40 years personally, but I'm very new. When I met you in Minnesota, I had just started, and I've only been doing this for 3 years, and I've maybe got 35 to 45 clients. Probably would have grown faster if it wouldn't have been for a pandemic, but I feel like I'm doing okay. I'm as busy probably as I want to be at this point. But it's given me more of a bird's eye view, because when you're training multiple people, you're able to make observations that you couldn't make just looking at yourself. One
Mhm.
thing that I've come to the conclusion, and Doug McGuff has suggested that, that is to some extent a sort of a selection bias because of what we do, is that the percentage of people who have the genetic potential to get large muscles, and I don't mean like Mr. Olympia muscles, even just, the type of muscles that'll get them noticed in a tight t-shirt, is, in my estimation, I have a pretty small sampling, much smaller than I would have originally thought. And we go to the resistance exercise conference, we look around us, and you see a few people. I mean, you've played college level football and whatnot, so I would say that genetically speaking, most people don't have the build to play college football. So have you found that to be the case as well, that it may be what we've been led to believe? I love Ellington Darden and read all of his books, but he always had photography by Chris Lund in his books with all these bodybuilders, which of course, made us all kind of want to be like that. But for the vast majority, even greater vast majority than I had once thought, that's simply not in the cards. Have you found that to be, is my small sampling borne out with your sampling?
Exactly. I mean, I've been doing this. I tell people all the time that I've been doing this for, strength training since I was in high school, and lifting weights actually since I was in high school, then strength training in the last 30 years or so. Um, and when I was 18, 20 years old, it didn't matter what I was doing. I got bigger and stronger. Now I'm 58. I'm not going to get much bigger muscle wise. It hasn't happened, and I'm okay with that. So my goal in doing all this is to maintain and gain as much strength as I can, so I can keep my functional living, to a place where I can enjoy it. So that's the same idea I take to clients. I say, first of all, women are afraid they're going to get big, and I tell them most guys can't get big. So, and you don't have as much testosterone as they do, and you have much more estrogen. So you're behind the game right there as far as gaining muscle. And the only way you're going to get bigger is if you eat too much, and it's not muscle.
Right.
So, and trying to give people a realistic look of things is what I try to do in all my explanations. Try to be as open and honest with them about the results that they're going to get. I just had someone asked, I think it was yesterday, how long until I will see results? First question is, tell me what results looks like to you, and then I can give you some answers, and because if your results are you want to, lose some body fat, well, you got to eat differently. This isn't going to do much for that. And that's one of the hardest pills to swallow for most people, is that we as an industry have told them to exercise to lose weight, when the reality is, if you do enough exercise to actually change your weight, you're probably doing way too much. And to really make a difference in your body fat, you have to change what you're putting into your pie hole. So, don't right size people's expectations, and then they'll buy into what you're doing. So, if they want to see, and she said to me, well, I'd like to see more tone. Well, okay, define tone. First of all, most people say they want to see more definition in their muscle. And I said, your muscles have definition. You just can't see it because there's body fat over top of it. So if you want to see more tone, reduce your body fat. Now, will we add a little bit of muscle to your body doing this? Most likely. And will it help with that? Yes, but not to the extent that reducing the body fat over top of the muscle will. So, explain to them the realistic aspect of things. And I think you're going to, over time, not get people to be disappointed, because their expectations aren't as high as they once were. And people's expectations from this are so far skewed because our industry has shot itself in the foot so many times, trying to get people involved in it. I go to all kinds of conferences every year, and most people who own fitness businesses could care less if you get any results. All they care is that you keep coming back and keep paying your monthly dues. Well, my approach is 180 degrees from that. I don't charge a monthly fee. I charge per session. So if I don't keep you coming back because you're getting results, the chances are you're not going to come back, because I don't have the entertainment that health clubs have. That's why a lot of people keep going to health clubs, is the entertainment value or the social atmosphere. I don't have that. So this is all focused on people getting results. Now, what results are they looking for? And I constantly sell people on their results every time. I ask them, are you feeling that there? Are you feeling that? Have you noticed a difference in your everyday life, especially in the first few months of training? I'll have people tell me, because I'm on the second floor here, I'll have people tell me that, I noticed walking up your steps is easier.
Right.
That's progress. It doesn't matter what the weight stack is. It doesn't matter how many reps you did. That's progress. That's real progress. And that's real results that will turn into long-term clients.
Right. And well, my background is in the insurance industry, and particularly health insurance. So we talked a lot about, with long-term care, activities of daily living, and being able to do those things. It's interesting. In 1968, Kenneth Cooper wrote the book Aerobics. And in 1968, it's interesting, and shortly after that, bodybuilders and people with big muscles, at that time, people thought, well, those are just for show. It's just aesthetic. Those people don't care about their health. They just want to look good. If you want to be healthy, you got to work out your heart and lungs. And that's what health will come from. And those other things are just for show. A lot has happened since then. But the reality is, today, that strength training has been shown more and more to be about health. Far more, as a matter of fact, as most people have come to the realization, is that jogging is one of the worst things you can do for your joints, limbs, and things like that. But the strength training is, in fact, much healthier, despite the fact that most people will never look anything like a bodybuilder. And like you say, unless and choose to diet. Like for myself, I mean, I'm 6 feet tall. This morning I'm 178. If I can get down to about 170, then and wear a t-shirt one size too small, I look like I work out, right?
Yeah.
But if at 6 feet I could easily carry 200 pounds,
Hmm.
And I probably would have more muscle on me if I did that. But I won't like what I look like in the mirror. So I'm still vain enough to kind of like what I see in the mirror type of thing, call it vanity or just taking pride in your personal appearance, right? But most people, it's about dieting. Now, do you offer diet or do you sort of stay away from that? I know that I've found that to be extremely challenging to control what people do once they leave my facility.
Um, I learned a long time ago when I was in grad school, first of all, to stay within the scope of your business or what you know, because of liability purposes. I'm not a registered dietitian, so I tell people up front, I'm not a registered dietitian. The most I'm going to do for you is give you general guidelines. If you really want to make a change in, your body fat and reduce, and reduce it, you need to talk to a dietitian. And over the years I've had people I referred to, but I don't get into that. I tell them that I'm here to help you get stronger and increase your functionality. So if you're looking to lose body fat or lose weight, you need to speak to a dietitian.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, and I'm
Because I'm sorry, because if I tell them to do something and it turns out to be, I tell them to eat broccoli and then all of a sudden they get an allergic reaction to broccoli, I could be held liable for that. And I'm not a dietitian, so I have no recourse. I'm stepping outside my boundaries. So I stay in my lane and do what I do and do it well and let others do what they do. I tell people it's sort of like if you have a knee injury, you don't go to your eye doctor and ask them about your knee. They're both working on the body, but one specializes in one thing and one specializes in another thing. Go to the person who's really good at what you need, and then let the other ones do what they're good at.
so, and that makes all the sense in the world. And I think at the beginning, being a newbie and sort of, maybe some naiveness that comes with anybody being new, I thought about that, but I'm quickly backing away from that. Unless somebody, the rare exception is if I see somebody that truly is motivated and they really want to do it, rather than me trying to motivate them. Because then you can come across also you're lecturing them, and also you could be continuously giving them negative reinforcement where they don't want to see you anymore because you're continually reminding them that they need to lose
They're
weight.
failures. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
failures.
exactly, type of thing. So you mentioned one client that you've had for 23 years. At this point in time, you have a good idea of retention. My guess is one of the things that really sets apart what we do from the general fitness industry is retention. Because in general, it's a cliche, the New Year's resolution where people start and stop and don't stick to programs. One of the reasons why I named my business Sustainable Success. Um, my guess is your retention is really good.
For the most part, I mean, I get new clients all the time, and I have clients fall off all the time. I actually had two people die this year. So, so you're going to have some attrition, but I would say if you take out the extremes, the average client is probably with me 10 years, 10 plus years.
Okay, so that's remarkable and almost unheard of. And earlier you said about the fitness industry, a lot of people don't care about the results as long as you keep coming and paying. And I was going to say, actually, as long as you keep paying, they don't necessarily care
Right.
if
Right.
you keep coming, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and you mentioned the fitness industry having shot itself in the foot many times, and I think part of that has been a short-term focus. We'll get you in shape for this summer, for when you put on
Right.
a bathing suit. We'll get you in shape for your daughter's wedding. Lose weight fast. Pick the cliche and things like that. As opposed to, I think what we do is, get fit for life. Think about this as something that's a lifelong pursuit so that you can play with your grandkids, so you can dance at your granddaughter's wedding and do these types of things. And more I've realized the countless, internet forums and arguing about 3 sets versus one and this method over that method and things like that. I've come to the conclusion that if it's not better for a lifetime, it's not better. Even if arguably you could say that somebody's going to get better results in the next 3 months doing something else in 3 months,
Right.
who cares about 3 months, right? Because
I agree. It's not sustainable. It's not something that you can do long term. And I'll take that a step further in the sense that I don't believe that what I do is the right way of doing things. I don't think there is a right way. There are wrong ways, but there are many ways to get results. And you cannot dispute that there have been people getting results doing stuff that's very different than what we do. And do we agree with their methodology, or do we agree with would I have people do what they do? No. But they're putting a stimulus on their body and their body responds. And that's really, if you break it down to what are we doing, we're overloading the body so it has a reason to adapt. Okay, now there's ways that are more efficient, more effective, safer, but in the end, if we're stimulating the body for that result, it's effective. So, I don't care if you do 3 sets, of something, that might be right for you because you don't want to work as hard as it would take to get the same results doing 1 set. Okay. As long as you're not hurting yourself, it's not wrong.
right.
And when I see people, they're looking at someone doing a workout and they're saying, the speed of movement at the first third of the range of motion is a half a second too fast. I'm like, does it matter? No. Now, if you're in some type of competition and some type of thing that, that you're comparing one to another with their form, maybe, but the reality is that difference isn't going to make a big difference in their results. And if that's how they feel comfortable doing it, and it's not providing an excess force to their body that's going to create injury, why pick on it? Why make that such a big issue when reality is that person is putting a stimulus on their body in a safe way? And who are you to say that the first third of the range of motion was too fast?
Right. Well, yeah, there is a lot of hair splitting that goes on. There's no question about it.
Well, the hair splitting and the more than just hair splitting, it's that, okay, you're splitting that hair and one side of that hair is right and one side is wrong. Well, no, neither side is right and neither side is wrong. As long as someone's getting some results from it and they're not hurting themselves, why is it wrong? And why is one side more right than the other?
So
Doesn't make sense.
you're echoing something I remember. Lawrence Neal was interviewing Bryce Lee, and I forget now. And Lawrence, I'm paraphrasing from memory. This is quite a long time ago, and he was asking about how to convince people that this is a superior method. And Bryce kind of interrupted him and says, "I don't tell people this is superior, because he says I don't really know that." He says, "I tell them it's more efficient and it's safer, and I'll get your results. I'll get your results. I won't hurt you, and I won't take up a lot of your time." And he says, "That's all I sell. Because if you claim it's the best, then the burden of proof that it's the best is on you." Although,
Exactly.
revealing
Exactly.
my personal bias, I would say if it is more, if all else being relatively equal, if it is more efficient and safer, then some would argue that is better.
Oh, better for someone who's looking for something that's more efficient and safer. But if someone's looking to increase the ability to move more weight, this may not be right for them because they have to learn that skill of that of what it is, ever that is that they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And what we're doing may not help that, or it won't help it to the same level as learning how to move that way.
I had a young man in here when I first started. He was 24 years old, about 6'4". He was about 190 pounds. He was about 3 weeks out from a bodybuilding contest. Guy looked like, looked amazing, and nice guy, and went to the gym 4, 5, 6 days a week and hung out there. And of course, he's not married. He's got no kids. I mean, it's his thing. So when I told him that I thought he could get as good or better results in a fraction of the time, to him, that was not a benefit. He likes going to the gym. He likes hanging around with his buddies. He likes doing his thing. And I talked to him about what he was doing, and he wasn't doing a whole lot of crazy stuff, more volume, of course, and frequency than you and I would do. But overall, he was a pretty smart, intelligent guy. But for him, that was not a benefit, the idea of saving time. He likes going it. Later on in his life, he may remember what I say once he does get married and has 2 kids and a job and maybe doing some volunteer work. Then he might say, geez, I'd like to be able to go hang out at the gym with my buddies, but just not going to happen anymore. And oh yeah, but I remember there is another way. I can still,
Right.
in good shape.
Well, and that goes back to what I said earlier. He can't be working out hard if he's doing that much volume. I mean, when I say hard, every set being hard.
Right.
So, he's making up the difference of intensity with volume and frequency. Is it wrong? No, as long as he's not hurting himself and he's getting results and he's doing it on a regular basis, he's getting the benefit of it. So I can't argue with someone like that. He's enjoying what he's doing. He's doing it and getting results and not hurting himself. So,
well, it's interesting. My one of my first mentors, when I started selling life insurance, he told me, Rick, your job is not to sell life insurance. Your job is to find people who want life insurance. And I guess sort of what you're saying is, why would I sell this guy on what I'm doing? It's not what he wants.
right. Well, what I
want.
might do with someone like that is, each exercise that they do, I might show them a more effective way of doing the exercise, so that when they're doing the exercise in whatever volume or frequency that they are doing it, they're actually going to get a little bit more from it. And that's what I used to do when I worked at a health club. That's what I did. I'd walk around on the workout floor and I'd just help people work on their form, get better at getting the results they're looking for, rather than I was trying to drum up business too, but I mean, I truly was trying to help people so that they would be getting more out of what they're putting into it.
Well, interestingly, and this is a little bit, just in case there's any doubt, this is me doing a bit of bragging, but when he came in, I wasn't sure what weights to put on the machine that would be proper for him. So I thought, well, I'll use my weights. And it was sort of ego gratifying because he struggled with some of them. But I suspect, after giving it some thought, that he probably struggled not because he wasn't strong enough, because I think that there's no doubt in my mind that he was stronger than I was, but that he just wasn't used to working that hard. When I told him to not only use those weights, but to go slower and everything else, he just found it really, really hard.
Really uncomfortable.
Yeah, really uncomfortable. That's right. Exactly right. So we're coming up to what I wanted to end with. So people want to get a hold of you, I'll get all the information. I'll include that in the notes to everything. But do you have closing thoughts, messages either that you would like your audience, i.e. your clients or your potential clients, to hear, or that you think that the people that I work with would want to hear? What are some closing comments that you think, that you'd think are really important for people to keep in mind?
I think we covered a lot of it, and I think what it is consistency. If you can consistently do this on a regular basis, and stress the body enough to where it has to respond, you're going to get results. Now let's make sure it's done in a safe manner, but it's a consistency thing. Like I said, I have clients who've been seeing me for years, once a week, and they don't work out to their genetic potential. They don't work out as hard as they possibly could, but they still see results because they're coming in every week. Now, would they get better results twice or three times a week? Most likely, but that doesn't fit their lifestyle. It doesn't fit their budget. It doesn't fit, whatever. So I would rather see someone once a week forever than three times a week for 2 months,
Right.
even though, I can't help someone if they're not here. So, keeping people in front of you and keeping them doing it on a regular basis is really, from both ends of the spectrum, from my point of view and from the client's point of view, that's the most important thing.
Well, interesting, in saying that, sometimes client will ask me, they say, last week we used this machine for the arms. This year we're using this machine, or we changed the order. So why are we doing that? What are you accomplishing with that? And I kind of smile and laugh a bit, and I say, tell you the honest truth, it doesn't make much difference. The biggest difference.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I have set workouts that I take people through. I put a lot of time and effort into making sure they're well balanced, and in the grand scheme of things, when I have the multiple workouts together with certain clients who've been here for a long time, they'll have like 5 workouts that they work through. So what we're talking about is the consistency, but also some variety. So what I tell people is we're working to get consistent variety, so you don't have the same workout every time you come in, but you've had this workout before.
Right.
So you know what it's like, but it's not the same thing over and over again. Is it physiologically necessary? I don't believe so. As long as you're working as hard as you could do the same thing. If it's a balanced workout, you can do the same workout forever, as long as you're working hard enough for it to get results. But the problem is, if you do the same thing over and over again, you get bored with it. You don't put the effort into it, and because the effort's lower, your results get. So keeping some type of consistency, but also some variety, gets people to feel comfortable and stay with it.
Right. Well, I tell people the biggest difference is between not doing it and doing it. So that'll
Well,
be your biggest difference. And then after that, as long as we don't hurt you and you stick with it, then what we do, yeah, something's a little better. And if you're an athlete who's preparing for something where fractions of a second might make a difference between placing and not placing, then we can drill down. But for most of us who are just looking to play with our grandkids and go out and play golf and have stuff, that sort of stuff doesn't matter a whole lot. So
yes, I agree.
thank you so much. Appreciate your taking the time today, especially when I hear you're doing 70 sessions a week. Thank you for squeezing me in, and I wish you a very good rest of your day and the weekend, and look forward to talking some more in the future.
All right. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Bye-bye now.